We'll talk about wrestling with John in just a second. You have a cabin up here in Canada. You're here every summer, right?
I am.
This tree is there.
Yes, well, that tree was there. A couple days after Christmas in 2007, I went up there with my wife and youngest son, and he took that photograph. I wanted to see the tree at the time of year that made the tree that way. And he got a good picture, and a good thing too, because this summer when we went in June, it had finally snapped at the very place where it was bent over. The weight of the ice or the snow had finally taken it out.
But you put it into the universe again, man.
Yeah, it was an unpleasant feeling. It was an uncanny kind of feeling. I don't like to be frightened in real life.
Sure.
I only like that to happen in books.
From time to time, I'll interview an author, like Mitch Albom will be on the show, or Stephen King. They play in rock bands and they have their other thing. I don't think I've ever interviewed an author who's in a wrestling Hall of Fame, which you are.
Well, there are accidents, and then there are accidents, you know. It was a big part of my life for a long time, and I think my mother was wise to recognize that as a kid I had a lot of anger management issues, and it was a great outlet for me. It doesn't seem coincidental now that I began wrestling at age 14, which is the same time I began writing. It was the same time I began sort of keeping a journal. And I competed till I was 34, and I would have done it probably longer, except it's a weight class sport, and I was having trouble making that 136.5-pound weight class, and the next weight class in those days was 149.6. I was just getting beat up by the bigger guys, and so I had to stop. But I coached until I was 47, and I continued to spar with various ex-wrestler friends, lightly, I thought, pretty lightly. And my wife was tired of the injuries, the orthopedic procedures, and so I made a little deal with her. I said, well, the next time I have an orthopedic procedure, I'll stop. And I little anticipated that it would coincide with my finding the last sentence for this book. But in January of 2005, I was on my way to see a hand surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon who has worked on my fingers a number of times. And what happened the day before, and this has never happened to me, wrestling, and it never happened to anyone I coached or anyone I knew, but I got my index finger stuck in my sparring partner's nostril.
That's the death pick. That's the death pick, John.
And I assure you, as I assured him, it was entirely unintentional. And at the time, I was actually relieved because I thought I had stuck it in his eye. He was under me, and I went to underhook his arm, and I felt my finger go somewhere wet and warm. And he screamed and twisted his head. He has a very big neck, this guy, and he tore the extensor tendon off my index finger, so it was down like that.
His nostrils of steel, that guy.
Nostrils, yes. He has a really tough nose.
He really does.
You know, so there he was, bleeding profusely, and I ran into the locker room to get a towel for his nose, and only when I reached for the towel did I realize that the extensor tendon was gone. And I thought, oh, this is a bad thing to happen to someone who writes in longhand, because, you know, you're in order to reattach that tendon, you're splinted for 6 weeks. So I had this ugly cow catcher on my index finger, and I had to hold my pen this way. And so that was it. That was the end of the wrestling. We have a very affectionate relationship, though, this guy and I. In our emails and in our phone messages, we continue to refer to each other as Finger. He calls me Finger, and I call him Nose.
So, the brand new novel is called Last Night in Twisted River. It's great to see you, man. Thank you very much.